their fear was at the time. But no, I didn't go nowhere.
Johnny Depp stands as one of the most captivating and talented actors of our generation, a man who transformed every character he touched into pure magic on screen. His extraordinary ability to disappear into roles made him not just a Hollywood star, but a global phenomenon. From the struggling musician in Kentucky who could barely afford to eat, he rose to become one of the most bankable and beloved actors in cinema history. Honored with 3 Academy Award nominations, a Golden Globe win, and countless accolades that celebrated his fearless artistry, Johnny Depp redefined what it meant to be a leading man in Hollywood, choosing weird and wonderful over safe and predictable. For over 3 decades, he enchanted audiences worldwide, playing pirates and outcasts and dreamers with a depth that made you forget you were watching someone act. But beneath that mesmerizing talent and those unforgettable performances lies a story that will break your heart. A brutal legal battle that played out like a nightmare in front of the entire world. Financial devastation that cost him nearly everything he had built, and a loneliness so profound that even standing in front of cheering crowds couldn't touch it. Before we begin, if you believe Johnny Depp represents one of the most genuine and misunderstood talents of our time, leave a like. It's a small gesture for a man who gave us so much magic while quietly fighting battles most of us will never fully understand. It's devastating to realize that the man who would bring so much beauty to the screen first learned about survival through pain. The same hands that would one day create unforgettable movie moments were first taught to make music as an escape from a childhood that hurt too much to face. Every moment of chaos in those early years left scars that never quite healed. Every day felt like trying to hold on to hope in a house where hope wasn't welcome. Johnny Depp was born on June 9, 1963, in Owensboro, Kentucky, the youngest of 4 children. His father, John Christopher Depp, worked as a civil engineer, while his mother, Betty Sue Palmer, waitressed and struggled with her own demons. The family moved constantly, more than 20 times before Johnny turned 15. Each new town, another attempt to outrun problems that followed them everywhere. From Kentucky to Florida, dragging suitcases and broken promises through the night. Their house was never peaceful. His mother's anger filled every room, sharp and unpredictable, like walking through a minefield where you never knew what would set off an explosion. His father stayed quiet, retreating into silence that felt like abandonment. Young Johnny learned early that home wasn't safety, it was survival. He'd hide in his room with his guitar, letting the strings speak the pain he couldn't put into words. The music became his medicine, his escape, his only friend in a world that felt dangerous, even behind closed doors. When he was 15, the fragile foundation finally crumbled. His parents divorced, and whatever small stability existed shattered completely. His mother's pain turned darker, her moods more volatile. Johnny was left trying to navigate teenage years while feeling like the ground kept disappearing beneath his feet. He dropped out of high school at 16, not because he didn't care, but because he couldn't breathe in that building anymore, couldn't pretend everything was normal when his whole world was falling apart. He poured everything into music, forming a band called The Kids, playing in small, sweaty clubs where the music was loud enough to drown out the thoughts that haunted him. They played garage rock with dreams bigger than their talent, surviving on hope and the few dollars they made passing around a hat. The band moved to Los Angeles, chasing the dream that brought thousands of kids to California, searching for something they couldn't name. Johnny slept on floors in apartments packed with too many people, lived on ramen noodles and cigarettes while watching his dreams stay just out of reach. At 20, he married Lori Ann Allison, a makeup artist 5 years older, who saw something special in the sad boy with the guitar. She introduced him to Nicolas Cage, and that introduction changed everything. Cage saw past the musician struggling to survive and saw an actor waiting to be discovered. He pushed Johnny to audition to try something he'd never considered. And in 1984, Johnny landed his first film role in A Nightmare on Elm Street. His part was small. His character killed off quickly, but something ignited. The camera loved him in a way that even he didn't understand yet. From that moment, the musician started to fade, and the actor began to emerge. But Hollywood's success didn't come easy or fast. He took small roles in forgettable films, struggled to pay rent, wondered if he'd made a mistake leaving music behind. Then in 1987, 21 Jump Street happened. The television series made him a teen idol overnight, his face on every magazine, his name screamed by crowds of young fans. Suddenly, he had fame and money and recognition, but it felt hollow. Playing a pretty boy cop week after week felt like a prison. He was trapped playing safe when his soul craved strange. He'd show up to set feeling like a fraud wearing someone else's skin. The money was good, but the emptiness was suffocating. Then came 1990 and everything shifted. Tim Burton cast him in Edward Scissorhands as a gentle creation with scissors for hands, who couldn't touch the world without cutting it. Johnny poured his own isolation, his own feeling of being different into that role. The character couldn't speak much, but his eyes said everything. Burton saw what Johnny had been hiding, that his real gift was playing beautiful, broken outsiders. That role saved him, artistically gave him permission to be weird, to choose characters that mattered over paychecks that impressed. The 90s became his golden era. What's Eating Gilbert Grape showed his tender side. Ed Wood proved he could carry a film. Donnie Brasco displayed his dramatic range. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas let him go completely wild. Each role a rejection of what Hollywood wanted him to be and an embrace of what he needed to create. He dated Kate Moss, the British supermodel, and their relationship was passionate and turbulent, fueled by youth and excess, and a darkness they both carried. They were beautiful together and destructive, their love burning too hot to last. When it ended in 1998, after 4 years both were left with scars and stories they'd spend years trying to forget. Then came Vanessa Paradis, the French singer and actress who brought him something he'd never really had. Peace. They met in 1998, and unlike the chaos before, this felt like coming home. She was calm where he was restless, grounded where he floated. They never married, but built a life together in France, away from Hollywood's glare. In 1999, their daughter Lily Rose was born, and Johnny discovered a love that terrified and completed him. When his son Jack arrived in 2002, his family felt whole. For 14 years, they lived quietly in French countryside. Johnny, speaking French at home, playing with his children in gardens far from cameras. For a moment, he seemed to have found balance. Then in 2012, it ended. The reasons stayed private, but the pain was obvious. He'd lost his anchor, the family that made him feel human. Pirates of the Caribbean in 2003 made him the biggest star in the world. Captain Jack Sparrow, a drunk, swaying pirate with gold teeth and eyeliner, became iconic. The film made over $600 million, and Johnny's performance earned him an Oscar nomination. He'd taken a children's movie and created something genuinely original. The sequels followed, each one making hundreds of millions. Dead Man's Chest, At World's End, On Stranger Tides, Dead Men Tell No Tales. The franchise became a money machine, and Johnny became very, very rich. But something was shifting. The later films felt hollow repetitions of a character that had lost its spark, and behind the scenes, his life was unraveling in ways nobody saw. In 2015, he married Amber Heard, a young actress he'd met on set. The relationship seemed passionate, intense, but almost immediately people close to him worried. The marriage lasted only 15 months before Heard filed for divorce in May 2016, claiming abuse, and arriving at court with a visible bruise on her face. The accusations exploded across every media outlet. Johnny Depp wife beater became a headline that followed him everywhere. She was granted a temporary restraining order, and the man who'd played Heroes was suddenly cast as a monster. He denied everything, but the damage was done. In their divorce settlement, he paid her $7 million, which she pledged to charity. The world seemed ready to move on. But then in 2018, Heard wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post, describing herself as a domestic abuse survivor. She never named Johnny, but everyone knew. In that moment, his career imploded. Studios distanced themselves. Disney quietly removed him from future Pirates films. Warner Brothers asked him to resign from Fantastic Beasts. The roles dried up. The phone stopped ringing. Decades of work disappeared because of accusations he swore were lies. For 3 years, he lived in that shadow, unable to defend himself, watching his legacy crumble. Then, in 2022, he did something that shocked everyone. He sued Amber Heard for defamation, and the trial became the most watched legal battle in modern history. For 6 weeks, the world watched as intimate details of their relationship were dissected. Text messages, recordings, photographs, all displayed for millions to judge. Social media exploded with opinions, everyone picking sides. The testimonies were brutal, both sides accusing the other of violence, manipulation, lies. Johnny sat in that courtroom day after day, his face blank, but his eyes carrying years of pain. When the verdict came, the jury sided with him on all counts, awarding him $15 million in damages. The courtroom erupted. He'd won, but the cost was everything. His privacy, his dignity, his soul laid bare. Financially, Johnny had been bleeding long before the trial. By 2017, reports surfaced that he was in serious trouble, despite earning over $650 million during his career. He sued his former business managers, claiming they'd mismanaged his money. He'd been spending $2 million a month on a lifestyle that included 14 homes, private islands in the Bahamas, a yacht, a fleet of cars, and a staff of 40 people. He owned over 70 guitars and spent thousands on wine, collecting rare bottles he'd never drink. The spending was compulsive, an attempt to fill a void that money couldn't touch. His managers countersued, claiming he was impossible to control, that he'd ignored their warnings for years. The legal fees alone cost him millions. By the time the dust settled, he'd sold multiple properties, was renting homes he once owned, and owed tens of millions in taxes and debts. The empire he'd built was gone. Now at 62, Johnny Depp stands in a different place. The trial vindicated him legally, but the scars remain deep. He's slowly returning to work directing a film starring in smaller European productions, rebuilding a career that once seemed untouchable. He plays music again, touring with his band Hollywood Vampires, finding joy in the thing that saved him as a broken teenager. His relationship with his children remains strong. Lily Rose and Jack, both grown now, staying close to their father through everything. He lives more quietly now, the excess stripped away by necessity, and maybe by wisdom. He's spoken about feeling free in a strange way, lighter without the weight of superstardom's expectations. The man who once had everything learned that having everything meant nothing when peace was missing. Looking back, Johnny Depp's life reads like a tragedy. He had to survive talent that made him a legend, demons that nearly destroyed him, betrayal that broke him publicly, a legal battle that exposed his darkest moments, and somehow through it all, a quiet determination to keep breathing. He's no longer the biggest star in Hollywood, but he's something more important. He's still standing. The boy from Kentucky who learned to escape through music became the man who learned to survive through truth. At 62, he's building something smaller, but real. A life measured not in box office numbers, but in moments of genuine peace. The crowds may be smaller now, the roles less glamorous, but there's a dignity in rebuilding that fame never taught him. Johnny Depp's story reminds us that survival isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up, even when the whole world watched you break. The lights will dim, the applause will fade, but in a quiet room somewhere there's a man with a guitar playing music that finally sounds like freedom. Softer now, but honest. And maybe that's the real victory. Not the one the jury gave him, but the one he's giving himself. The chance to live without performing, to exist without explaining, to simply be. Because in the end, nobody's perfect. We rise, we fall, we try to find our way back. And maybe the truest art isn't the movies we make, but the life we rebuild when everything else is taken away.